Today I have with me 5 AliExpress watches that I wanted to present to you, some of which are absolutely crazy and that nobody else, I believe, is presenting or paying enough attention to. But among the 5 watches, there are some that you might have seen before, some that you might have never seen, and some that are absolutely crazy. There's a Pilot, there's a really massive, beastly deep diver, there's a jumping hour, there's one made with exotic materials. There's pretty much something for everybody, so stick around and we will get to them one by one. And as usual, I'm gonna be leaving links to the watches in the description of the video. If you want to support the channel, go ahead and get them through the links. Thank you very much if you do. Let's start right away because you might be impatient, and we're gonna start by one of the ones that pretty much nobody's talking about and that is pretty nice. It is actually the Seagull rolling Panda, and you might have seen this one maybe in 1 or 2 ads. I know about this only because one of you guys suggested it to me. It is the Seagull 6203, a new Panda diver. It is a 200-meter diver. It is not a homage of anything, and even if it were, take a look at this thing. Take a look at those little elements in here, making it really distinctive. A true Panda watch, literally, with that rolling Panda featured where the 5 index should be. That is the first hint. The other hint is the smiling Panda face on the second hand. That is a really cool feature. And of course, the third Panda in here is going to be in the back cover of the watch. It is once again this rolling Panda. So besides from the Panda, let's talk about this diver per se. Seagull tells us that this is a diver's watch, so I doubt that it's an ISO rated diver, but still, like, given Seagull's reputation, I'm pretty sure that this one can withstand any deep water submersion that you can basically dive with. So let's get first the dimensions out of the way. We've got a case measuring around 41 millimeters. In thickness, you've got 13.1, so this is pretty chubby, as Pandas should be. And in log to log, you've got a 47.5, so yeah, pretty contained log to log. And you've got a log width of 20 millimeters. Let's first take a look at the showstopper for this watch, and that is, of course, the Panda dial. As you can see, not only do you have the Panda features that we have talked about, but you also have a white dial, a stark white dial, and you've got black lume. I'm glad that they went with this lume, even though it is not great for the luminescence part of it, but at least it goes with the theme of the watch. Inside here, you've got the in-house ST25 movement, beating at 21,600 beats per hour, with a quite nice power reserve of around 45 to 48 hours, Caliber Corner tells us. The things I like about this one, it is of course those cutesy looks with that Panda and stuff. It will not be for everybody, of course, but it is a true Panda watch, finally, if you're into that. The fact that you've got a sapphire crystal and the fact that it is pretty robust, you're pretty sure that you're dealing with something with quality in here. The things that I like a little bit less, or even not at all, first of all, the fact that you've got a pressed clasp, but you were expecting that. You've got solid bracelet links though, and solid end links, so that's pretty okay, I suppose, at this price point. We'll get to that later. I do not dislike the fact that you've got an aluminum bezel insert in here, but yeah, check the numbers in that bezel insert. They're a bit too big, they're a bit too overpowering, especially if you look at that pretty delicate and nice looking face, according to me. And the bezel rotation is a bit, yeah, it is not that precise, and you've got quite a big backplay in there. I think that Seagull should look into that, but in any case, you've got a pretty okay deal here, with the watch being at $209, with the one that is written in the Occidental alphabet. But if you want the exact same watch just written in Chinese characters, that one's gonna cost you $180, so much less. Yeah, it's pretty good, and you'll find both the links in the description of the video. Let's move to the next watch, and the next watch is one that is pretty, I wouldn't say famous, but that got into people's attention lately. Why? Because the most famous watch YouTuber YouTuber Nico Leonard released a collaboration with Maine where they released the exact same movement that is in this $100 watch in a Maine watch in collaboration with him, but it was priced at $1,000, and that got people intrigued, and the guy from All Things Random actually called out to him and made this quite public in one of his videos, and they had some back and forth. But the thing is that later on, Gary from I Like Watches talked about this watch. I think it is this same watch because it has the exact same movement. It is a jumping hour watch that I have had for a while actually, that is pretty nice looking. It is nothing out of the ordinary. I myself, I'm not a big fan of jumping hour watches, but this one is pretty okay if you're into that. The dimensions are quite restrained at 38.5 millimeters in diameter. The height is 12.7, but because of that very highly domed mineral crystal, take a look at that big bubble in there. It is quite impressive, very mid-century, and the log-to-log is 46.7 and 20 millimeters in log width. Of course, Pierre Paulin, which is part of the Mercury group, has been pretty hyped up lately by another famous YouTuber. I do not believe they deserve all the hype that he gave them. They make good original watches, but they're not like the best AliExpress watch brand, far from it. But still, this is a pretty nice watch. It features, as I said, the Seagull ST17 jumping hour movement, which is pretty okay if you're into that. Once again, you've got Breguet style Arabic numerals in the outer ring of the dial. In the inside of the dial, you've got kind of a sunburst effect. At the top, you've got an open window where, of course, the jumping hour feature rests. And as you can see, the operation is smooth and nice. In the bottom part of the dial, you've got the seconds hand. And of course, this movement, it does hand wind though, but it does not hack. Take that into consideration. The bracelet is quite good. It is a leather bracelet with quick release. So yeah, you've got something at least. Of course, at this price point, you do not have a signed buckle. This is a pretty generic bracelet, quite good quality though, with some padding, quite soft. It is okay and totally decent for $100. I think that is something that Mercury Watches and Pierre Paulin has for itself. The absolute killer prices at which they offer their timepieces for quite decent qualities and original designs, and this is no exception. The next watch in this selection, one that absolutely passed me by, it is the Hruodland, and that is really hard to pronounce, FO16 Pilot watch. This is quite a big boy at 43 millimeters in diameter by 12.4 millimeters in height, a full 51 millimeters in log-to-log and 22 millimeters in log width. But take a look at this. This is the quintessential pilot's watch. It is of course a homage of an IWC, but take a look at that turbine. It is really nice looking. You kind of get lost into it if you look at it closely. Very nice. Of course, you can argue that this is not Hruodland's design and they don't get any credit for that, but still, I think that for the price of around $125, it is pretty nice if you want a pilot's watch with some pizzazz, with something else out there, and you don't want to spend the $10,000 or so that the IWC costs. You've got, of course, the big onion crown, characteristic of Flieger watches. All the elements of Flieger watches are here actually, from the onion crown to the sword hands, the triangle at 12, and those big legible numerals for the hours. The lume is actually pretty good, and if you flip around this watch through the transparent case back, you get a good look at the Seagull ST3620 movement, which is quite well decorated for a watch at this price point. Take a look at that. There's some perlage, there's some blued screws, some apparent jewels. Pretty nice at this price point. It is a hand wound movement, so no automatic here. It is not hacking though, so once again keep that into account. The crystal is sapphire though, really slightly domed, and I believe that this is more than a decent proposition at only $125. Now we go absolutely crazy with a watch that is 56 millimeters wide and that is built like a tank. I am dead serious. If you take this thing and you you hit somebody with it, you'll give him a concussion. It is, of course, the Steeldive 1969, and you recognized it. This one is a homage of the modern Omega Ploprof. Not a lot of brands have attempted to make a homage of this huge monster. First of all, because it is really expensive. I mean, the architecture is really something out there. I mean, the whole thing is quite complex with many different parts. All the chunk that you need of only stainless steel is extremely expensive and makes this endeavor quite something out there. That is why this is quite an expensive watch. Nothing like the $15,000 of the original, of course. This one is $296, but for that you get a watch that has a helium escape valve, is 1200 meters water resistant, and has a perfectly functional stop mechanism for rotating the crown. So the security mechanism works this way. You have to push that big button at 2 o'clock or thereabouts, and then that frees the bezel, and then you can turn it, then you release it, and it is secure. This is absolute security. You know that with this thing you will get your timings right, which was essential when the first Ploprof released. At the time there were no diving computers, so knowing your downtime was essential, and the original at the time was built for deep sea exploration and of course for saturation diving, which it lost. It lost the COMEX contract to the Rolex Sea Dweller, but that is another story. This thing was built for that, for the extreme abyss. Inside beats a Seiko NH35, nothing fancy about that, and that's pretty okay. Hacking, hand winding, reliable, serviceable, everything is good about that. The crown is totally protected in that big shroud. The loom is absolutely insane. A combination of BGW9 and C3 in this model. Those big plongeur hands with that orange sword minute hand in there, full of loom, pretty impressive. That dial with, which is very much Ploprof, of course. In the back you only have the Steeldive logo. So this is an absolute beast. Expensive it might be, but if that tickles your fancy, there you go, you've got this one, which is quite impressive. And the last watch of the selection is another crazy watch in a totally different manner. It is the Saint Martin SN0145. It is an integrated bracelet model. Maybe you've heard of this one before. It is a tonneau-shaped watch made out of semi-precious stones. Here I've got the tiger eye, and as you know, these are cut from the real stone, so no two will be alike. As usual, you've got all the amazing finishing from Saint Martin in here. That integrated bracelet is just really nice, beveled and fluid and all that you can wish. That clasp has the on-the-fly adjustment that it makes it just very practical. The loom is really good, and that is the good part for this watch. The price is also, quite there for AliExpress. It is one of the expensive models. I see it for 327 or something. With the coupons you can go down to 300, I suppose. But this is kind of their luxury segment from Saint Martin. Of course, if you live in the EU, I'm gonna be leaving you links for a store that has got a warehouse in here, so you will get no taxes for the EU. Go ahead and check that and use code HR15 to get an extra $15 off. So it goes for around 250, 260 euros if you go there. The bad part about this one is the movement, not the fact that it is bad itself, because you've got two choices here. You've got the PT5000, a Chinese clone of the ETA 2824, and you also have the Sellita SW200, a Swiss clone of the ETA 2824. However, if you get that other option, if you get the Swiss movement option, you get the beveled hands. If you get the PT5000, you get the non-beveled hands. And I believe that Saint Martin might have cheapened out there. I really do believe that given this watch's price and the company's reputation, they really should have given the beveled hands for everybody. But besides from that, the PT5000 version is just really good, and I do recommend it very much. I did a short on this watch that you can go ahead and check, of course. Thank you so much. If the video was useful, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And even though I recommend this watch very much, I'm gonna be leaving you here with watches that I do not recommend at all. Thank you very much, and I'll be seeing you right away in this video.